Good evening. We find ourselves where we left off last time. This guy seems kind of cross with me. And I barely remember how to play this game. Congratulations, Jigsaw, on being first, by the way. Luckily, water is notoriously good at, preventing electricity from conducting through your body. Ow. So, I remember that last time, I noticed that if I shot it in, like, the teeth things on its head, they would, like, light up and make it, like, walk somewhere. So I will attempt to do something similar. If only I could aim. But I lived. Okay, those are lit up. Maybe I have to light up all three at once? I don't think I meant to, like, run between the various podium things very often, just because it takes so long. So actually, you know what would make sense, since I think it like walks slowly towards me? I bet what I'm supposed to do is like get to like one of the podiums, which gives me like time to take shots at him, and then I wonder if I'm supposed to like make all three sets of teeth light up at once. Like maybe that's it. Or maybe he just kind of like walks into a corner, like a naughty child. Okay. Did I make him do that by shooting his forehead? I appear to have found my way onto him, so I don't necessarily need to know how I actually did it. Oh, was one of the shiny bits down there, or was that just, like, water spray? I imagine there's gotta be one on his head, so I'll just start up there and work my way down. Assuming I don't ragdoll off. I would presume that the thing would be shining by now if it were present. Okay, maybe it's not on his head. Straight down from here, is it like on its underside? If so, how do I get to its underside? Do I like have to scramble down the front? Thou cannot aim for its vitals as thou art now. Okay, so I can't have them all active at once. I can direct it. I bet I gotta make it walk through there, and it, like, drops the bridge on it or something. Oh no, you don't. You go that way. Oh no, you don't. You are not getting me off. I refuse. Is this disc thing in the way? I guess it is. I gotta go around it. Alright, this is fine. Is it not willing to get closer, or... I don't think it is. Alright, where else could I go? Top of those things, I guess? I guess my concern is that, like, if that's not correct, if I get off of this thing and it ends up being like a waste of time, I have no idea how I'm gonna get back onto it. But I suppose I don't have much choice. I imagine this is deeply uncomfortable to the Colossus, because, like, whenever something bonks my teeth that, like, wasn't, like, an intentional bite on my part, it always... oh no. It doesn't feel particularly good, ever. Alright. Let me off. Not like that. Is there something there that I would want? Probably not. Okay, maybe over here? I imagine there's gotta be something somewhere that'll, like, flip it upside down or something. It's also incredibly difficult to, like, take stock of anything, because, like, I'm constantly getting ragdolled and the camera's constantly, like, doing 360s. Oh well, we do our best. I'm not seeing anything up here that's, like, of interest. And I'm still faced with my prior concern of, like, not wanting to leave the back of the Colossus, because getting back onto it might be a massive pain. I do wonder if I'm, like, meant to take it over to the ridge. The voice does say, "as I am now," so, like, I wonder if I'm, like, meant to get a power-up or something. I noticed that this looks kind of like the top of one of those things. Just sunken. So I wonder if I've got to, like, bait the Colossus into, like, punching them all down or something. Alright, I'm going to assume that I do actually need to be, like, over on these things. Like, maybe I'm draining the reservoir or something. The voice also earlier did describe the Colossus as a bridge, implying that, like, it was supposed to take me somewhere. I see. Alright. Just gotta do that again. I understand now. And it does seem that I can only use each one once, so depending on how aggressively it shakes me off, this fight might be permanently losable. If I, like, don't do enough damage to, like, kill it before it destroys all the things. Though there's 3 of them and I would only need, like, 1 or 2, so I'm probably fine. You think it only destroys it if I fail to do damage? Well, I did 50% of its health and then it destroyed it, so, it's not... It doesn't destroy it when you do no damage. Now I just gotta get behind it again. Which probably entails... driving it into a wall by shooting its teeth head thing again. Alright. I now understand what to do, I'm pretty sure. I just need to actually do it. It is all the way over there. Well, alright. Let's see if I can't get behind it now. Okay, never mind. think I hit the tooth. I guess it can ignore the teeth if it doesn't feel like it. Alright. What if I make it move forward? There's not that many directions left. Oh. Do I have to shoot it and then get out of sight so that it doesn't change its mind or something? Or do I have to shoot it like twice in a row? I'm still not certain how I got on in the first place. I just kind of like wandered off and I just kind of like took the opportunity. Maybe I should wait for the same thing? Like, I'm gone. You got me. You can totally just wander off now. I guess that's that. I suppose I should be grateful that, like, the fur on its back isn't, like, super slick because it's in the water, and therefore I can't grip onto it. Or, I suppose it's grass more so than fur. Get me over there. Move you get closer, please. It's like trying to give directions to a child. Alright. Oh no. You stop that. And it's dead, finally. That one took a while. The Colossi might be electronic, given that when they die they all let out smoke. Oh, the Forbidden Roman approaches. I would like to save. This is a different cutscene to the one that I normally get. Pretty horse. Only a little more to go. Seems like other people are on their way here. Possibly after the same thing as me, probably after the sword that I presume I stole from them. Thy next foe is the vast desert lands. A giant trail drifts through the sky. Thou art not alone. Let's see, how many statues are left? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're in the final stretch. I do think it's kind of cool how they made like this gigantic world and then put nothing in it. Like, I'm not being sarcastic, it is kind of like very distinct. It could be a slight pain to get across it, but like... visually it's like, wow, there's really nothing here. Autumn Forest. Autumn's actually my favorite season. It's not as cold as winter, it's not as warm as summer. And unlike spring, there aren't like a bajillion bugs waking up. Also, yeah, the trees all get all super pretty, and they start shedding their leaves. Wonder continues to be the actual worst archer. There we go. Hate the leaf raking part? Then just don't rake the leaves. Let the nutrients go back into your lawn. Literally, raking leaves is just, like, a thing that was invented, like, in the 1950s so that people would have to buy rakes and would have to buy bags to put the leaves in, would have to pay for, like, having the leaves taken away, and then, like, when their lawn had no nutrients in it, they'd be like, oh, we gotta pay to, like, make the lawn look nice again. Just don't rake. It looks better, too. Fallen leaves are pretty. I think I actually hit it. Nice. And this tree looks like it has fruit. So it looks like the fruit's gonna fall a distance if I actually shoot it, which might make it inconvenient to pick up. Can I climb the tree? Can I get the fruit from up here? Oh, that was a waste of consideration. Let's see if I can get it down anyway, since I'm already down here. There we go. No. Where's the other one? Did it teleport back up or something? I despawn when I hit the second one. Why put two fruit on the same tree then? That's so dumb. Oh, there's one. Alright, where even am I? I need light. That way. The question becomes, how do I get back up there? Well, this looks like the desert that they were probably talking about. Is this a shrine that I can see that, or is this a different structure entirely? Oh, this is the Colossus. Okay. You take this. This thing looks kind of like the dragons from the Wild duology for Zelda. Except more puncturable. Your immediate thought was Rayquaza? You know, my first thought was like, whatever the blue dragon is called. Mayrosh? Something like that. It's like Dinral, Therosh. Something like that. Where is it? It's a giant Colossus in the air. How is it not visible? There it is. I probably need the horse for this one. Oh, there we go. One down. Two down. Three down. Perish. Did it reinflate something, or is it still down? Okay, looks like it's still down. Been a while since I had a Colossus with more than one mark. Do a barrel roll. Fun fact, the maneuver that is in Star Fox that they call a barrel roll isn't actually a barrel roll. It's an Ilarion roll. Or an aileron roll. Oh, and it dove under the sand. And Wander is... regrettably not dead. Alright, where is this guy? Presumably, I just need to shoot it down again. There it is. Alright, come back down, please. Not finished with you. Yep, worse. When I'm kicking you, I want you to go faster, not slow down. Please go faster. Where horse? I just saw horse. There you are. Let's try this again. It's kind of hard to judge how far away the Colossus is. Like, granted, I know how big it is, so, like, it shouldn't be that hard, but, like... Of course, please, keep going fast. There we go. It's a little hard to lead the shots at that distance. Alright, round two, let's go. With the sword in hand and not the bow. Gotta get back here before it closes its fin and goes for a dive. Probably a third one down the line. I sure wish the camera would stop trying to be helpful. I'm complaining about it a lot, but it's kind of bothering me a lot. Alright, let's go. Hopefully the final sigil. I appear to have been, rejected. And I was so close, too. Yeah, the camera's trying to be cinematic, but it keeps giving me cinematic shots of, like, walls and, like, the sky in the direction completely opposite of where I want to be looking. I wouldn't mind too much if it wasn't for the fact that, like, it fights me constantly while I've got my thumb on the actual camera stick. It's like I'm telling it where I want it to look, and it's just like, no, 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 go this way. Oh well, it is what it is. At least this Colossus is like way less of a puzzle than the last few. Nice easy breather. It's also not exclusive to Shadow of the Colossus. I get annoyed in basically any game where the camera control gets taken away from the player. It just happens to be the thing that is bugging me in this game. Everything else I'm kind of on board with. It's like, okay, Wander's not, like, cool. Wander just kind of sucks, but, like, he's doing this anyway. Good for him. But, like, the camera, that's in our world. That can be better. Just need to stab the rearmost sigil 1 or 2 more times. And it's done. Now, it kind of makes sense that this one would be filled with ramen because it was ramen shaped to begin with, and you are what you eat. But wait, if I'm eating what was inside of them... Does it mean that I'm a chicken? No, I'm a fox. I sustain myself off of antics and the annoyance of those who I've wronged. Alright, just 3 colossi to go. I like how, as the game has been going on, Wander's been getting like more and more beat up. Thy next foe is a guardian set loose. A closed-off city beyond the channel. It lusts for destruction. Like, I'm pretty sure when the game started, like, Wander's clothes were, like, all intact, and, like, his skin was, like, not all bruised and bloody. Like, he's still going strong, but you can tell that, like, he's been through some stuff. I do like that attention to detail. I do like that attention to detail. Right, beyond the channel, I wonder if it's, I wonder if it's like along that bridge that one Colossus was near. In the remake, it's noticeable much earlier on. I mean, I did kind of notice it earlier, I just didn't really comment on it. Oh, horse. Horse. This way, horse. I like this bird. We're friends now. This way. City beyond the channel. Thinking about channels, thinking about cable TV, thinking about the fact that I haven't, like, watched cable TV in, like, over a decade. Times change. Yeah, like, as long as they're not too, like, overpriced, streaming services are just strictly superior. It's like, thanks, but I'll watch what I want to watch. Assuming that it's, like, you know, on the platform. Last I checked, my favorite anime isn't available anywhere, so you have to either find a secondhand Blu-ray or go without. I don't think I got it. I think I stunned it, but I didn't get it. Yeah. You know, call me old-fashioned, I'd much rather just, like, pay once and then, like, actually own a copy of something that I can watch whenever I want. Like, let me fairly compensate the people who actually worked on the show for, you know, the effort that they put in. And then, like, you know, 3.5 years down the line, I don't need to, like, check an online catalog, discover that it got removed because the license expired and all the money that I spent is now vanished into the ether. There we go. No. Alright. waiting Steam, but for shows and movies, fun fact, there are actually some movies on Steam. Not many, but some. And if you buy them, they're just in your library, and you can like download and watch them whenever. It's an incredibly underutilized feature of the platform. Beyond the channel, they said. A channel is usually for water, so it's probably not the area that I'm in right now. Let's get into the sunlight and recalibrate our GPS. Okay, that way. Still better GPS than fly Skyward Sword. I mean, Fi wasn't solar powered, so like, she does have that edge. Or if she was solar powered, she had a battery, so like, being in the shadow of a long tree wouldn't like stop her from doing her job. Well, this feels like it certainly leads somewhere. Alright, horse, I won't make you bathe. This place is pretty. I like it. This reminds me of the first cave in Okami. Like the one where you, learn cut. Looks like the perfect place to drink tea and read a book. Yeah, it seems very peaceful. And then Wander showed up. He's like, I have different plans. Yeah, Wander, the main character, he's not particularly heroic, he kind of just actually sucks at everything. It's like he's constantly, like, you know, waddling and stumbling, and, like, if he tries to swing his sword, he kind of sucks at it. And despite this, he's trying his best. Though it can be a little bit annoying when you're trying to get things done and Wander is just not capable. Have I felt 13 colossi? Yeah, way more than that. Why do you think there aren't any? You're welcome. That looks like it might be the guy. So we're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom, anything that would take you about 5 minutes. Thank you for the head pats and the hydration. return. Yeah, this guy looks Colossus shaped, so I'm gonna show him something arrow shaped. It's an arrow. This is the second small Colossus. I don't really have a memory that's good for pictures, but does this guy not look exactly like the last one? He certainly feels exactly like the last one. Alright, so the last one I had to trick him into falling off of a ledge, so that the fall would crack his armor. Yeah, the last one was afraid of fire. The last one also stun-locked me by punching me and then Wander taking a year and a half to stand up. Alright. Okay. Looks like this one also has his mark on his back. What can I find that'll break that armor? Well, at least it's technically not a stun lock. I'm getting the impression that the fight's gonna be a whole lot of, like, a whole lot of this. Just getting stun locked over and over. Oh well, it is the nature of the game. I just gotta find a way to crack his armor. Now, I see that these pillars are able to fall over, so maybe I can make him, like, drop one on himself? Like, coming over there, perhaps. I feel like I'm on the right track. How's it going, nerd? You mad? I guess it's like a sequence of pillars. Alright. Alright, this isn't too bad. Find a pillar, bait him into hitting it. Repeat. Get mad. Get angry. Do something about it. I do enjoy the taunt to get bodied combo. Getting bodied like this, I enjoy substantially less. I don't mind getting hit once, and then like taking damage as a penalty. Getting hit once, and then the fight is over, except it takes a long time because the boss just likes to BM. That's different. Luckily, dodge roll. You mad? Is this bothering you? Am I annoying you? Oh no. There was some Final Destination type stuff right there. I like hit the ground head first and my skull ricocheted in such a way to just perfectly bounce me right into this guy's path. Am I actually get it faster? Is that a thing? No, I'm not. As far as I can tell, water doesn't get it faster for anything. Like, I think I tried it before and it didn't do anything, so I just stopped trying. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if water gets knocked out, there's nothing that makes him get up faster. I should probably actually try to stand still for a bit. In a bit where, like, water isn't at risk from the Colossus. The mini Colossus. The sus. Like, it doesn't really feel right to call it a Colossus if it's not colossal. It's just sus. It's a Mogus. And because there's two of them, one must be an imposter. Not sure if my health regenerates faster while I'm crouching or not. Good shot. I will say, because, like, the fight returns to the ground a little periodically, I do appreciate that, like, if I do get, like, knocked off, I don't have to go all the way back to the start. Okay, that happened. What does this accomplish? Gets me in here. What's in here? I have to like bait it into hitting these pillars so that the ceiling collapses on it? That's probably exactly what it is. Looks like I could climb this also. Is this not where I started this Colossus from? I recognize this little divot. There we go. I like how water's just like stuck in there. Thank you for the headpats. I'm now in danger, more so than before. And I gotta get above it to get onto it. But that's doable. I like how the camera wants to look literally completely opposite of where the Colossus is. There we go. If I hold down left bumper, it actually looks like the Colossus. Uh-oh. You believe one of the trigger buttons? It was left bumper. I just think it's kind of... Well, that was a ragdoll. I just think it's kind of funny that, like, by default, the camera assumes you want nothing to do with the Colossi. It's like, oh yes, you're playing Shadow of the Colossus for, like, something else, surely. You're just here because you want to see Wander get hurt. Activate the chocolate fountain. I'm not familiar with this reference. Or do you mean the burst of smoke when I shank him? Okay, one more good step. Or evil stab. Stabs are kind of like alignment agnostic. Alignment neutral. Really more of a chocolate geyser. See, that's the kind of chocolate that I want. Never enough chocolate. I have had access to a chocolate fountain exactly once in my life. It was a family reunion when I was a child, and I was not allowed to partake. And it's dead. And Wander decided to go down with the ship like the captain of the Titanic. But he lived. Yeah, my parents' justification for not letting me use the chocolate fountain, if memory serves, was that you didn't know what anybody had put into it at a family reunion. Alright, we're up to 14 out of 16. Assuming that there isn't a secret 17th Colossus. Maybe they had alcohol mixes in. Not advertised, if so. It was just a chocolate fountain. All the other kids were allowed to have it. I also wasn't allowed to eat any of the meat there. Thy next foe is... A giant has fallen into the valley in Lego City. It acts as a sentry to a destroyed city. I'm gonna get one of these birds eventually. Yes, got it. Finally, Chimkin after all these years. Nom? I can't eat it. Meanwhile, the girl's just indestructible. Good for her. She's like, no, I'm a girl that the main character cares about. I can only die in a cutscene, not in gameplay. What if the odds that this Colossus is inside the shrine? That's the secret 21st Colossus. I mean, at that point, we've had a secret 17th through 20th Colossus. Hold up. I can jump there. What can I accomplish if I jump there? Oh, I don't have to climb leaves. Alright. Never stamina if I can make it over there. There we go. Can I just keep climbing this wall, or... Camera, please. Looks like I gotta get up there. If I could land on that thing and not end up behind it, I could totally do this. I feel like jumping uses less stamina than just climbing. I might be wrong, but I get that vibe. There's a little bit of skew. That was a bit weird, but whatever. I get back without messing it up. Oop, I did not want to jump forward. I think I hit jump on a ledge and Wander made assumptions. I'll try this like one more time. I don't think I'm getting up without taking a break. Unless I can like stand on those branches over there maybe, which I probably can't. Camera. The front of this looks like I could climb it, but I obviously can't. What if I were to drop around and sidle around the side? Would that accomplish anything? Can I climb up there? this protrusion being here makes me think that it's possible. And nothing there to grab, but there's something there to land on. I might be onto something. Hold on. So... I can land here, but if I do land there, what do I do? Probably not much. If I get up there, though, different story. And I go around and go up. The question is, how do I get that high? I can get up to there, but it looks like I'd have a better time if I got up there. But to get up there, I need to take a rake right around here. I don't think I can land on that, because water keeps, like, sliding right past it. I said one more, but this is a puzzle now. It'd be easier to let go if I thought it wasn't possible. Gonna regain stamina when I rest in the leaves. I don't think I can rest in the leaves is the thing. They're just another thing to grab onto. If I could stand on those over there, that'd work. But I don't think I can stand on those. I don't think there's anything solid there to stand on. No, there is not. Where I can get isn't that far below where I think I want to go. I wonder if I can just make it all the way up. This might need all stamina upgrades, true, but it also might not. I'm gonna try a couple more things before I write it off as just not possible. If I just don't take a break and just keep going. It's a bit higher than I thought it was. I don't think he's capable of jumping anymore. I feel like this is possible. nice close up on his face. Is that dirt on his neck, or are those his veins? Either way, not a good look. Get over the curve. If they didn't want me doing this, they wouldn't have made this wall climbable. I don't think I can get back if I go there. Though I might need more stamina than I have. And then he died. Yeah, I think I need more stamina. Where were we? These two load times be like. Maybe one more Colossi. Are the geckos Colossi? If anything, I'd expect fighting the Colossi to, like, lower his stamina and health. Because they're beating the crap out of him every time. They're just like, never mind, we're not friends anymore. I see how it is. Back towards where the guy with the teeth on his face were. So I've probably been to this shrine already. And yeah, Gecko. There we go. Mom. I don't know if that actually made my stamina appreciably larger. Oh well. Now we want to go this way again. We're also another bridge. I'd say that we'd cross that bridge when we got to it, but we're there, so... Maybe we'll actually accomplish something in the forest this time. That'd be nice. I like went in last time and then I had to leave. Okay, straight through. I still think that this place has great Lost Woods energy. Okay. I'm like, okay, I'll tap triangle to get me off the horse. And Wanderer's like, gotcha. Pulling self into abyss. I'm on it. And I'm back in the Shrine of Worship again. I'm going to have to get that gecko again. I was thinking to myself, oh, I didn't save my game. Yeah, it's fine, there'll probably be another shrine closer to the Colossus. And then Wonder was just like, well, I've been listening to everything you've been saying, and, you know, bullying is a serious thing. With consequences like this. Back to the shrine. The little one, not the big one. I'm hoping not to end up back at the big one again tonight unless I speedrun this Colossus. Last I saw the gecko, it was right about there. I don't see her somewhere. There it is. There we go. Okay. Right, back that way. To the forest, please, aggro. Ooh, birds. Are they leading me somewhere? I'll take that as a no. Fun fact, pertaining to Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, There's a myth that people say if you follow a fox, it'll lead you to a point of interest you haven't discovered yet. That's not actually true. Or rather, it's not inherently true. It's more to the point that foxes just kind of like run around at random, and therefore if you also run around at random, you will eventually encounter something you haven't encountered before. Okay, so down there is Steph. If you see me out in the world, you shouldn't follow me. If you see me out in the world, and you identify me, first of all, I'm a VTuber, so like how? Second of all, that's creepy, so in fact, do not do that. Like if, like you can drop by and say hi. Let's see. I know that this thing likes to set fires when it's concentrated. I wonder if I can burn down this forest. Here we go. Burn it. These trees are built different. I wonder if I can make this jump with aggro. Probably not. This is probably a jump that even a Pono would struggle with. Alright, let's try to find a way around. So this, if memory serves, is where I was for that one Colossus. So rather than going back into the woods, I went off to the right. I wonder if there's a path into the woods. I recall that girl struggling to not run into walls there as well. No. Well, there's a gecko there that I hadn't eaten, so like, maybe this is a new one and it just looks a lot like an old one. Like, identical to an old one. This is just where that last Colossus was. Maybe if I go over there? Yeah, like, I don't think that my stamina's getting any bigger, so, like, maybe I've eaten all the geckos and my stamina's as big as it gets. I've not been over here before, I know that for certain. I don't like this current. I also know that for certain. Oh, there we go. What might be found up here? So the stuff I'm looking for is up there. Maybe this takes me around so I can go over the top of the bridge? That would actually make sense. Or not? Uh... Does climbing this pillar accomplish anything? Probably not. There might not be a point to being over here. Other than, I guess, the satisfaction of having done it. So what I want is over here. Maybe I climb up the ridge? I do see these, like, vines winding around it. Worth a shot. It wouldn't be the first building I tried to climb today. Not sure if those shadows are wonky lighting or, like... Okay, I think I can't go through there. Okay, is this climbable? I don't feel like it is. I'm just gonna take that as a no. I really feel like I'm not meant to be here, by virtue of this having been a previous Colossus arena. What did guys say about this one? It was like... a guardian of a city across... across a bridge, I think it said. Something like that. That's where I dropped down from. I know I wanted to get, like, to the other side of the forest. Well, I'll probably figure it out eventually. In the meantime, though, I think that's probably it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Friday. The game is going to be on Epic. The next time that I'm streaming Shadow of the Colossus in particular is going to be on Wednesday. I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope to see you again. Good night.